Hi everybody, my name is Taylor D. Adams. I am a storyteller, filmmaker, and podcaster. And back in 2017, I had the honor and privilege of producing Wolfpack Hustle, a documentary series about NC State men's basketball. And in an effort to hopefully inspire and educate other people who want to tell real life stories and to reflect on how far I've come, I've decided to do director's commentaries on these episodes. If you happen to enjoy what you see, please feel free to share it with friends and family and whoever you think might find this interesting. Anyway, enough of my blabbering. I hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks. Okay.
My first year at Wilmington, about, I would say 4 years ago, was very similar to...
So as much as I can, especially with Coach Teach, especially that he was a new coach to NC State, the first new coach I was basically kind of working with from a documentary standpoint. I want to provide context about their background. So we touch a little bit on it in the first couple episodes about maybe what their values are, like a little bit about how they grew up. And so one of the things that some folks might avoid is showing coaches at a school they were at before they got to their current school. Not a big subscriber to that because every individual has history. And so to provide context for why someone does what they do, it's important to show where they've come from. So I was never shy about using or utilizing footage from when an individual was at another school. So with Coach Keach, he came from UNC Wilmington, not that far down the road. And so to show the success he had there was important because that's why he got hired. That's one of the reasons why he got hired at NC State. And so we have to show that to provide context about why they are the way they are and how they behave the way they behave. And so, yeah, I think nowadays it's people don't worry about that as much. But back when I was making this show, like there was some pushback on showing footage of players or coaches at another school. And my argument is like, well, they were there. Like, what do you like? You trying to like erase, trying to be revisionist about it? I don't understand. But anyway, I just, important to showcase the reasons behind things. Some good drone footage there. I think that was cinematographer Ryan Pham shot that. I think he's a DP based out in LA now.
You know, with our guys, we're bringing in a new system. They've got to pick up new terminology. They got to understand what I'm looking for on the offensive and defensive end. You know, one
of the really cool things, speaking of, showing where somebody comes from, both geographically and philosophically, it's really neat to work with someone new because you get a chance to like start from scratch. You get a chance to show every little bit about somebody. Because if you've been around somebody enough, if you're covering one subject for enough, you can get to the standpoint where you think to yourself, how do I keep things fresh? Is there anything new I can do to keep things interesting? So the benefit of working with a new group is that you have everything is on the board, everything you can show because everything is new. There's assistant coach A.W. Hamilton, currently head coach at Eastern Kentucky University. Really nice guy.
As soon as I met Coach Keats,
always happy to see me, or act like he was happy to see me. No, it wasn't an act. He's a genuinely good guy.
From the second I met him, I knew he was, he just had that.
So one of the really cool things about everybody on the staff is that they have some kind of personal connection to Coach Keats, whether they played with him or for him at some point in their career, or they had connected along the way a long time ago.
Just watching him do that with
and so his kind of one of the things that he it was evident about him and his staff was that they were very close knit. Like they had just known each other for a while, and I think having that chemistry is kind of cool to witness.
Y'all should be in a tight huddle. Hey, first time y'all been down all day. Get in the huddle. Get it in your huddle.
So yeah, like I say, like
Down all day. Let's go. Come on.
having the opportunity to just mic so many people up.
And they're starting to understand that.
And the amount of content you get from having your focus physically narrowed to a smaller group of people, a smaller geographical area, physical area, benefits the stuff you can capture. A lot of people ask me, did I like covering football or basketball better? And it really did differ. For me, I felt like that basketball was a little more intimate and a little, I don't want to say easier, but it did take up less of my time because there's just kind of less footage to go through at the end of the day, regardless if you have more than one game. But at the same time, like, I love filming outside. So yes, again, showing where people come from physically, it's different than saying in an article, Coach A.W. Hamilton played for this school and coached at this school. Like, it's really cool to see images. And so I scoured the internet for pictures of Coach Hamilton when he played at Marshall. And that's always cool to kind of like see where people come from, I think. And so now we've got, so we must have only one game this episode because we've got two interviews. We've got the Coach Hamilton interview, and we've got an interview coming up with Amir Yurtseven.
I saw glimpses of talent in some of the games, but there were a lot of games where I felt like he disappeared, and there were a lot of games where he wasn't involved. And one of the things,
it was always cool working around Amir. He was kind of on a different wavelength than everybody else. I don't exactly know how to describe it, but I think being from Turkey, just being an international player, like it automatically comes with a different cultural perspective, I guess is a good way to put it. Like you're exposed to different things.
We had hoops in our school, but that was it.
And so I remember one of the things that kind of endeared me to Amir was I was filming like in their locker room before the first episode even came out. And the way I position myself in the locker room is I always end up in kind of the corner, and Amir's seats, that's where his seat happens to be. And he sees me filming, and he kind of leans over, and he's like, is this for the documentary? I said, yeah. He's like, cool. And so I was like, it's always cool to me when because I'm so in the zone, because we as creators and filmmakers can sometimes be so in the zone of what we're making that sometimes we don't even notice that other people are noticing us. And so when I have someone acknowledge that they are aware of the thing that I'm making and just asking something as simple as that, I think that's really cool. And you don't even have and it always was a question.
You just gotta believe in yourself, and that was he made me push myself. Because at some point,
I tried. Oh man, I forgot we had some mixed media with this. Like, it's just so cool to have the evidence of where people have been. This baby Amir play international ball. It's really cool.
You've been gradually improving, and it's not gonna stop unless you make it stop. As long as you keep investing your time in it, it's just gonna keep adding up, and eventually you're gonna get better. The beginning of last year,
I think a really cool project to work on would be making a documentary series about the overseas league or an overseas team, because on those teams you have people from all over the world, and I think that is so cool. Now, that is like evident in the NBA, but because you got people from all over the world that play in the NBA. But I think having the opportunity to go somewhere outside of the US, outside of North America, and focus on a group of international athletes playing other international athletes. I think that would be, maybe that's a dream project for me. I don't know. Because basketball is a world sport. It's really neat.
I had to basically go down and pull myself together and learn from what I have done in the past.
Amir was also very insightful about his answers. He was very open. A lot of times some players I interview, they are inherently insightful, but like when the camera's on, their answers are short. And that's just a personality thing. Like just some people aren't comfortable enough opening themselves to a device that records them spilling their insights. And it's different from people being present on social media or whatever, because that's like, random thoughts in the moment, or maybe like in some instances like scripted out things of what I'm going to say. But to have
not a lot that can hold me
student athletes or coaches or whatever, whoever I'm interviewing, take the opportunity to be comfortable with me and my staff, me and my crew. I don't want to say staff. We're not big. It's usually me, my co-producer, Tony Haynes, and then a production assistant for this season. Production assistant was Savannah Collins, and she was with me for 2.5 years, I think 3 years, almost the whole run. She was invaluable to the show. So shout out to her if she's watching.
It's a matter of 4 baskets. Go. It's funny when you ask a guy how they're playing, they typically have a different answer than you do as a coach. 2 lines, 2 lines. 2 lines, hurry up, let's go. Your number is 315.
The easy thing to do with mic'd up footage is just to show mic'd up clip after mic'd up clip after mic'd up clip. The fun thing to do is integrate it with interviews, with interview clips, with interview sound bites, with interview visuals, and maybe even some B-roll to weave together a narrative from different sources of media. That's the whole idea about storytelling and editing. Like that's one of the things I really, I'm not going to say I'm an expert in, but I would say that I'm knowledgeable enough to emphasize the importance to upcoming content creators and filmmakers, the idea of using everything at your disposal to tell the proper story, to tell the story in the right way.
You got to get through or something. Y'all just settle in running. Both of you guys on the same side. He's running the floor like, get through. One of you go through. Go through. Obviously, we're trying to build up into a championship team, and in order for us to get there, I think coming from the head coach, I think we got to be completely honest with these kids. That's you and him for the ball. He can't out-fight you for the ball. Like he just basically, whether it was just a fight for the ball and he wanted the ball and he got it. You got to have that. You got to fight for that ball. Good job. Lock in now. Lock in here. We ready to go? Coach, make your first play, dribble handoff, coach. I think every player is different. I think coaches make the mistake when you got 13 players on your 13 scholarship guys on your roster. I think you have to take a different approach with pretty much every player.
So when Coach Keys came in, the majority of the players on this team were already here. They were here. They were recruited by the previous coaching regime. Now, of course, Coach Keats brought in his own people too to try and add to the roster. And so it's kind of neat to cover not necessarily a new to everything group, but people that are new to one another. That's always really interesting, I think, and engaging to document the process of them getting to know one another, that chemistry. And so one of the joys, man, one of the joys, witnessing stuff like that. Assistant coach Takeo Stittle, now the head coach at UNC Wilmington.
You gotta have a certain pride about it. Your house, nobody else. Our house, you gotta have pride in it. Okay, you gotta defend. Okay, the biggest key that we gotta do is
Coach Keys was the first coach that I saw use this giant notepad as a part of his.
You gotta rebound the ball on offense
It's a part of his presentation, I guess, for the team. It's both a motivational and an educational tool. That's kind of cool. Some people use a whiteboard. Some people don't use any board at all. Some people use Notepad. Everybody's got their own thing.
Beverly deep right along the sideline to Abu. Right elbow jumper. Good by Malik Abu.
Little pick and roll there. Malik, though, pulled up on the roll, and he was open at the elbow.
So now we're playing UNC Greensboro, or as they're branded, UNCG.
And timeout, Wes Miller.
You're doing a good job with the press. Don't throw it away. Come on, keep on being patient, keep cutting, keep on attacking.
Now, the way that college basketball is structured is that there's inherently a timeout, a media timeout every 4 minutes ish. And so there's always at least 8 opportunities within a game for me to cover what is happening in a huddle, because there's always going to be at least those 8 media timeouts. There is a 9th that's added to the first called timeout the second half, but as well as any additional timeouts get called. But I don't, with football, I have to like constantly worry about, okay, I have to cover a huddle, then I have to cover action, huddle action. I have to like find out when's the best time to do so. I don't have to worry about that with basketball, because every time there is a huddle, there is no action. Again, things get narrowed. The scope gets narrowed. And so I'm allowed at set moments in time to just walk over and cover what's in the bench. Never got kicked out of a huddle by the team. That was always nice. I did get kicked out once by an ill-informed security member on an away game. I think it was Wake Forest, but I'm sure I'll remember that when we get to that episode. One of the things I really love about documentary filmmaking and docu-series is the idea that you don't have to have your shots perfect in order to capture what is necessary. I like to, in an order of prioritization, I like to say, make sure your subject is in the shot, then make sure your framing's right, then make sure your focus is right. I think that's a good order. You could probably switch focus and framing, but as long as you're capturing the moment, this kind of raw look where things are in motion, things are real, and I think it's just really cool. I think it really brings the audience in. It can get distracting sometimes, but stuff like that doesn't me. And even that approach to that, to the camera operation of it all, when it's applied to when it's applied to fiction, that's really cool too. Bit of a television history lesson of shows using documentary type cinematography to film fiction. You can go back to FX's The Shield back in the early 2000s. You can also even think of stuff like The Office and Parks and Rec and Abbott Elementary. The fact that you're aesthetically framing your story as if it's real. I think that's really cool. I like those imperfections. Granted, ain't nothing wrong with a perfectly composed and lit shot. I mean, some stuff is gorgeous, but just from my experience of what I'm decent at and what I've been doing, I just find a lot of joy in this guerrilla style filmmaking. So we got a tight game going on here. There you saw a little bit of energy and emotion from Coach Keats at halftime. And so, like I said, if you're showing a tight game, you want to show that it's a tight game. Show score from one team, score from another team, defense from one team, defense from another team. there's a lot of like good sounds in sports. I really love a ball just slapping up against the nylon net. Just so satisfying. One of the things I was more welcome to, that I was more open to doing in basketball was using jump cuts. Oh boy. Woo! That player just tackled my co-producer Tony Haynes. Ran to the radio booth, guys. Man, this is a fun game to watch. Like I've said many times, I rarely remember how these games go.
Driving right of the lane, shoots a runner, banks it in, timeout stage.
Let's go, believe in it. Come on, we got time. We don't know what the option, believe in it.
Freeman quickly into the front court, throws it to Beverly. Beverly drives inside to Leonard. Freeman layup good. 26 seconds left. UNCG up by 9. Here's Beverly, left wing pass to Hunt. He gets it.
Oh, did we lose this game? It's definitely close.
Shot on the way. It is rimming off. No good. Rebound out. Freeman. 7, 6. Freeman up the floor. Freeman with 4, 3. Freeman
Oh man. Oh, bummer.
81-76.
Oh, I have a shot like that. I'm sorry, we lost. I shouldn't be happy, but when aesthetically you have an opportunity to, so we lost this game. We have a loss, and if you have a shot that can kind of sum up everything, that's usually can be very impactful. And so for me, one of the things I was thinking, and while I was filming, was Coach Keats looking upset, you know, visibly upset. I don't want to say dejected, but just frustrated. And to have him, I noticed him walking off frame. I'm not going to follow him. I'm going to let him walk off frame, because in my head, I'm thinking, okay, if this game goes south at the end, like that's the shot I'm going to use to put a button on this scene, basically. And I tend to like that shot a lot. Like a lot of times I will, if someone is visibly like walking in one direction, I will let them leave the frame, because in my head, I'm like, oh, this could be a good final shot for some reason, either to a segment or a scene or whatever. And so, yeah, this is the first episode of Wolfpack Hustle that we had as a loss, and it was a close one. And so I felt aesthetically, I've got to put a look to it, put a spin to it, because I know Coach Keats watches the show. I'm sure the other coaches watch this too. And so even though it was a loss, I do want them to see that I am treating everything with respect. And that's one of the ways to do it, is to just make it visually compelling, even when things don't go the way you want them to. Thank y'all so much for watching today. If you have any comments or questions about what you saw, please feel free to leave them in the comments section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you enjoy these videos and you want to stay up to date on other directors' commentaries or other videos I do put out, go ahead and hit subscribe, as well as ringing the bell so you get a notification every time I do make something new. And if you want to further support the stuff that I'm making, I would be so humbled if you considered becoming a patron. Becoming a patron comes with all kinds of cool perks, even outside of directors' commentaries. Yeah, but that's about it. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.